One of the most interesting narratives in the NBA right now, only 10 games into the 2021 and 22 NBA season, is the Los Angeles Lakers and how they're underperforming so far with their absolutely stacked roster, only going 5-5 through the first 10 games, and how their newest acquisition, and of course Russell Westbrook, is not exactly fitting in that well with this team, and really having one of the worst, if not the worst year of his career so far up to this point. And we know that a lot of the time Russ can get off to slow starts, but I think this is a different scenario here with the Lakers, just because Russ is now on a team with two other top 10 players in the NBA in LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and I truly do think that Russ's role is really going to have a drastic change on this team if the Lakers do truly want to win the championship this season with this stacked roster that they have. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today's video. I'm going to be going in depth on how Russ has performed so far this season, how the other players around the Lakers have played alongside Russ, and what that kind of narrative and chemistry on the court is looking like, and what Russell Westbrook's role on this Lakers team needs to look like moving forward in this season and eventually into the playoffs. So let's get into the analysis on the situation. So let's rewind all the way back to really the start of the offseason in 2021, and the Lakers were obviously eliminated in the first round by the Phoenix Suns. And watching that series, as a guy who obviously likes to analyze NBA and watch lots of NBA games and really look at the positive and negatives of certain teams, it was very clear that what the Lakers needed for their team was more shooting to surround LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and much better spacing on that team. And that was very clear for me after watching that series against the Phoenix Suns. So it was obviously really puzzling when they went out and made that trade for Russell Westbrook, specifically giving up some of their shooting to get Russell Westbrook and form that big three, which obviously looked very intriguing to get a third star on that team. But obviously we were thinking that Russ would not fit in very well with this team. But then the Lakers did what the Lakers usually do and went out and signed a ton of free agents just to complement LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook, and just add a lot more consistent shooting and spacing to this team. They obviously added Carmelo Anthony, Malik Monk, who has shown specifically this year how good of a three-point shooter he really can be. A guy like Kendrick Nunn, who can shoot the three pretty well. They added Kent Bazemore, and probably a bunch of other guys that I'm forgetting, because they just signed so many free agents that can shoot the three. And then at this point, as a guy who looked at this roster, and I just thought that they're really missing nothing, and nothing really should go wrong here. But Russell Westbrook this season has gotten off to such a slow start, and there's been many other problems with him fitting into this team, and it's just really not working out so far. And I know that LeBron James has missed 4 of the 10 games so far this season, but even when he was on the court, it just doesn't look like this team is fitting together yet. And obviously you can't expect perfection putting Russ into this team right away. You can't expect this team to perform well off the bat, but Russ is playing so bad so far this season that, like I said, I really do think his role needs to change. We know that throughout Russell Westbrook's career, he's always been the guy that chucks up a bunch of bad shots per game, but really this has not been that big of an issue throughout his career, just because a lot of the time he was the number 1 or number 2 option on his team, and he was the guy that should have the highest or second highest usage rate on the team. But now he's in a different situation with LeBron James and Anthony Davis on his team, like I mentioned, and he needs to realize that he truly is the third option on this team, and really needs to take a step back when shooting the basketball, because when he is shooting his mid-range and three-point shots, it really is truly hurting this team. When we look at his overall scoring stats so far this season, only putting up 19 points per game on still 18.2 field goal attempts per game, which is way too high at this level right now. Like I mentioned, he can be throwing that ball down in the post to Anthony Davis way more times than taking way less shots, and this could be very beneficial for this Lakers team. But unfortunately, Russ is just not doing that so far this season, and his efficiency is just some of the worst of his career, only shooting less than 42% from the field so far this season, less than 27% from 3, less than 63% from the free throw line, and overall a 47.3 true shooting, which is a minus 7.5 relative true shooting in the NBA right now, meaning his true shooting is 7.5% below the league average right now. And when we go more in depth on where Russell Westbrook is taking these shots, he's still attempting over 4 mid-range attempts per game, which is top 15 in the NBA, while only shooting 40% from the mid-range area. And a lot of fans across the league know that right now in the NBA, the mid-range shot is as bad of a shot as you can take right now. But when you've got a guy like Russell Westbrook shooting it, who only shoots 40% from that area, it's an even worse shot. And at times he's just chucking up mid-range shot and legitimately just wasting possessions for this team. And not to mention that he's still chucking up over 4 3-point attempts per game, and like I mentioned, still shooting under 27% from 3 as well. So it's no doubt that either Russell Westbrook needs to be taking less shots on this team, or he needs to be essentially playing a different role, which I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on further on in this video. But something that has really caught my eye as well, and a stat that I've looked at this whole year over the course of the first 10 games of the year with the Lakers, is usage percentage. And essentially what usage percentage is, it's the percentage of team plays used by a player when they are on the floor. And you would think that going into this season, Frank Vogel and the Lakers coaching staff, and really the Lakers organization in general, would realize that Russell Westbrook needs to have their third highest usage percentage on this team. But right now he actually essentially has around the same usage percentage of both LeBron James and Anthony Davis. All of these players essentially having a usage percentage of around 29 to 29.5%, as you can see here as I put up on the screen. And in my opinion, this is just simply unacceptable, because if you're using Russell Westbrook as much as you're using players that are way clearly better and more effective than him, like LeBron James and Anthony Davis, this is just not going to be functional for your team. And this really needs to change as the season goes on here, especially considering what I talked about with how badly Russ has played when it comes to scoring the basketball, but also with his playmaking this year. Russ is still a good playmaker, as we know. He's a good passer, he has good court vision, elite gravity when driving towards the rim, and is averaging 8 assists so far this season, but he's still averaging 5 turnovers as well, or nearly 5 turnovers per game. So he doesn't exactly have a great assist to turnover ratio either. And so far this season, I mean, his playmaking will get better, because we know that Russ is always going to be a very good playmaker out there on the floor. But when it comes to his scoring and shooting mid-range and 3-point shots, this just really can not happen as much as it's happening right now for Russell Westbrook and the Los Angeles Lakers, because these are not effective plays. And like I talked about, when Russ is shooting a mid-range or a 3-point shot, these are just so low percentage shots that it's essentially a lot of the time just a possession completely broken and thrown away for the Lakers. I mean, we saw the other night in the last play against the OKC Thunder, that last play where Russell Westbrook actually shot a 3. The play was just not drawn up well at all, because there was way too much crowding on the left side of the floor. But basically the last resort on that last play for the Lakers was Russ shooting the 3, and obviously he did not make it. So they first of all need to have better coaching to draw up better plays where it's not going to result in Russell Westbrook shooting the ball in the mid-range and 3-point area. But another strategy that I really need to bring up here, and everyone across the NBA community needs to start talking about this, is Russell Westbrook might be able to potentially have a role in this team coming off of the bench. Now, I know this sounds very weird, so just hear me out for a second. There are basically 2 possible solutions to the problem that I've brought up in today's video. Either Russell Westbrook stops shooting, which is not going to happen. We know how Russell Westbrook operates. It's just in his nature to keep shooting the ball. Even if it's not a high percentage shot, he's been doing that his whole career, and he's going to continue doing it his whole career. So I think really the only potential solution to this problem here is by making Russell Westbrook the #1 option when he is on the court. So basically what I'm saying by that is have him play off the bench, have LeBron and AD start the game with better shooting and spacing on the floor, and then have Russell Westbrook come in the game around the end of the first quarter and essentially play bench minutes. Right now he's averaging 35 minutes per game. Maybe just try to bring that down to about 28 to 30 minutes per game and have the majority of the time when he's on the floor playing with the second unit, having him doing what he's doing now, and just try to be a little bit more of a facilitator towards the rim, because obviously he's very dominant there. I don't want this to come across that I'm saying Russell Westbrook is a bad player. He still has amazing dominant attributes to his game, like playing in the post, dominating near the rim, being a very good passer and overall playmaker at times. And I think if he's playing with the second unit, he could adapt this role and really become the number one option with that second unit and try to help the Lakers a little bit this way. And then there are obviously going to be times if he's playing still 30 minutes per game that he will be alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the floor, and that's where Frank Vogel just needs to work a little bit more with Russ on becoming a third option instead of being the first option that he's been throughout his entire career. So I know this strategy sounds a little bit weird, but I really do think it would be beneficial to the Lakers if they could just have Russell Westbrook playing a few more minutes with the second unit of this team, so he can not essentially be taking shots away and usage away from LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and really have the overall function of this team be a little bit smoother and a little bit more effective. And I know this strategy definitely sounds weird, but the stats that we're looking at right now and that I've analyzed in this video essentially show you that this might be the solution to the strategy. And hey, maybe the Lakers do try this strategy and it just simply does not work at all. Russell Westbrook won't accept his role, but I think they gotta at least give it a shot, because this right here, as weird as it sounds, it might be the solution to their biggest problem right now. So I think the Lakers have to at least try this strategy of playing Russell Westbrook off of the bench, having him be the number one option with that second unit, and just allow LeBron and AD to essentially do their thing just like they did in 2020 when they won the championship with the Lakers in the NBA bubble. So there you have it. That's all I've got for you guys in today's video. Today was certainly a very interesting video, so I really want to hear your guys' thoughts about it. So make sure if you made it to this point in the video, definitely be sure to leave a comment down below on your thoughts on the Lakers right now, your thoughts on Russell Westbrook and his situation with the Lakers, and whether you think that they should try playing Russell Westbrook off of the bench or not. I thank you guys for watching this video. If you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're getting closer to 900 subscribers and eventually hopefully 1,000. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.